The woman, the wife, she is the homemaker. She takes care of the home, she takes care of herself, and she does the cooking and the cleaning.
We like cooking, we like running a home, we like supporting our husbands and having good marriages.
This is the greatest work I will ever do. Being a mother, wife, mother, wife, mother, wife, mother, wife, mother, wife.
Hello fellow traveler and welcome to the Hard Light Network. Today I'm going to be responding to this video from Funky Frogbait. I will post the link to the original video in the description, but for now, enough with all the time to get into the video.
Have you seen this video?
It was my birthday present from Daniel. Hoping their tickets to Greece.
Where's it from?
I don't know, the boys took it off.
From Ukraine.
So, plane tickets?
That's Hannah Nealman, who goes by Ballerina Farm on TikTok, where she has over 9.6 million followers. Full disclosure, I had not seen this TikTok prior to watching Funky's video, but it doesn't really matter because the video at large isn't really about Hannah Nealman or her husband. Rather, this video is aimed more at criticizing the tradwife influencer aesthetic, as well as the underlying culture that these lifestyle videos are meant to appeal to, which is why I decided to respond to this video in particular because my lifestyle is the exact same lifestyle she's critiquing. For those of you who don't know, I am married to a stay-at-home wife, we have multiple kids, and we're both members of the Eastern Orthodox faith. And while all of that will become more relevant later on in the video, Funky actually starts us off with a relatively light critique.
What do you think her husband, Daniel Nealman, son of millionaire founder of multiple airlines, got his wife of 13 years for her birthday? I'll give you a hint. It's not tickets to Greece. Not even with that sweet family discount.
Ooh, a hat I can wear in Greece.
It's not a hat.
Oh, my egg apron!
Eggs in it.
Great, then you can gather eggs. You're welcome.
Thanks, honey.
People really didn't enjoy watching the light leave a demure housewife's eyes after opening a disappointing gift while her husband loomed over her and demanded her gratitude. For some strange reason.
This is such a weird point to me because I don't think that rich airplane guy isn't taking his wife on vacation. At best, you've caught them in an awkward moment that should have been scrapped rather than uploaded. And at worst, your framing makes it sound like he's standing off camera with a gun pointed at her. Later on, Funky will accuse them of presenting a curated image to the world like it isn't genuine, like this isn't normal behavior. But what's more normal than giving bad gifts and having awkward moments? It's not a crime, and it isn't even a relationship-defining offense. And if Funky wasn't intent on presenting this awkward moment as indicative of a greater problem within their marriage, they'd probably be able to see that this is pretty normal behavior for most people. I get that they posted this publicly, but I just think it's bad practice to criticize other people's gifts.
They became even more concerned after Megan Agnew published her experience interviewing, or rather, trying to interview Hannah on their Utah farm for the Sunday Times. Hannah is presented as the queen of tradwives, seemingly able to do the impossible, popping out babies like a Pez dispenser while maintaining a beauty pageant-ready body, somehow juggling all the tasks required to raise a rapidly growing family. But Megan's article also offers a peek behind the curtains, some insight into what goes on when the cameras are off, and I want to highlight a couple of disturbing details. Hannah is a talented dancer and was attending Juilliard, an incredibly prestigious performing arts college, when she was introduced to Daniel. Bum bum bum. Daniel insists that he wanted to marry Hannah the moment he laid eyes on her, but that Hannah dodged his advances for 6 months. One day, when Hannah offhandedly mentioned her flight back to Juilliard, Daniel pulled strings at JetBlue since his father was an owner and made sure that he got the seat right next to hers, which is,
So romantic.
horrifying. I was gonna say horrifying. Using daddy's influence to be in close proximity with a woman who rejected you for hours while thousands of feet in the air? If this had been used as a plot device in a horror movie, I would have said it was unrealistic. I guess Daniel can buy plane tickets if it means he's gonna get some tail.
Ladies, are you dating your stalker? Maybe it's funky, but something about this doesn't pass the smell test for me. Are we really meant to believe that this woman spent 6 months denying this guy's advances just to finally cave when he ends up on the same seat next to her in an airplane? And if she really thought it was as creepy as Funky does, then would that make her more likely to marry him or less likely? Throughout the video, Funky will go on to imply that Hannah and women like her are somehow coerced into this lifestyle, while simultaneously extolling the virtue of the choice that feminism has provided these women. It's not even ironic, it's just inconsistent and pretty backhanded. But like I said earlier, this video really isn't about Hannah Nealman and the choices that she has made. This video is about Funky trying to throw up some sort of ideological speed bump in the road. Funky is worried, possibly even afraid, that if women continue to choose this quote-unquote trad lifestyle, that it will lead to a reversal in the progressive policies that she has come to enjoy.
This script has been sitting on my computer for a while now because I know that my job can basically be boiled down to professional talker, but I don't want to talk about these women. They're beautiful, they make delicious food, and I'm sure they love spending time with their families. It's just, when I see the commentary surrounding these tradwife accounts, I can't help but feel like the more this content is popularized, the more efforts for women's equality will begin to erode, because this has happened before.
And as the video goes on, her implications will become less subtle and more overt that we are sliding headlong into A Handmaid's Tale.
Hannah wanted to date for a year so that she could finish school, but Daniel was going for that Mormon marriage speedrun world record, I guess. So after 1 month, they were engaged. 2 months after that, they were married. And 3 months after that, she was pregnant with their first child. The article describes Hannah's life as slowly being smothered by the expectations of her husband and the needs of her children. Daniel doesn't want to hire a nanny, so Hannah takes care of their 8 children alone. Hannah only experiences the pain relief of an epidural during the one birth Daniel didn't attend. The barn that was going to be a dance studio becomes a schoolhouse, and Hannah's sequined gowns are moved into the garage. Slowly but surely, the dreams of the ballerina are pushed out of the picture, while a tiny framed dancer hangs above the stove as a reminder of the life she could have had.
You know, listening to this, I'm reminded of a quote from Gary Kasparov. The point of modern propaganda isn't only to misinform or push an agenda, it is to exhaust your critical thinking to annihilate the truth. Personally, I think it's a bad practice to jump headlong into a marriage, and 3 months is definitely not long enough for any courting period. That part about Hannah taking care of their 8 children alone is a flat-out lie. Quoting from that very same article, it says, despite the more traditional aspects of their relationship, Daniel is a hands-on father, taking the kids out to the farm and doing all the laundry. The reason why I'm drawing attention to this part of the article in particular is likely the same reason why Funky ignored it. It's because later on in this video, she'll devote a small bit to dunking on trad men who refuse to do household chores in order to help their wives, saying that trad men see these sorts of chores as women's work that is beneath them.
It's traditional men, not feminists, who view these tasks as beneath them, perhaps even openly bragging about not being able to do basic household chores.
I'm not sure in our entire marriage if I've ever done a full load of laundry.
I have not done anything around the house for 40 years. I've been a completely useless.
Mrs. Shapiro said, I'm not sure Ben knows how to do laundry, so I'll go with the dishes.
Ah, Nancy, can you do a quick tutorial for these poor, helpless men? Step 1, put clothes in washing machine. Step 2, put soap in washing machine. Step 3, let me know if I'm going too fast. Step 3, turn washing machine on.
So at this point, we get that Funky doesn't like the trad lifestyle. She doesn't like the hierarchy, and she doesn't like the division of labor. And while some of her early points boil down to a disagreement in lifestyle choices, she flat out lies about the Nealmans' Hannah's relationship in some areas to fit them within the caricature that she's created. She lied about Hannah not having any help because even though it's true that they didn't hire a nanny, that her husband did hire a cleaner to take care of their household. And as I've already pointed out, he has no problem picking up the laundry and also taking his kids with him to work. Thankfully, the Nealmans did put out a response video, so we don't have to rely on Funky's opinion.
The Nealmans did post a response video. They were, not happy.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a reporter come into our home to learn more about our family and business. We thought the interview went really well. We were taken back, however, when we saw the printed article, which shocked us and shocked the world by being an attack on our family and my marriage, portraying me as oppressed, with my husband being the culprit. This couldn't be further from the truth. Nothing we said in the interview implied this conclusion, which leads me to believe the angle taken was predetermined. We aren't done having babies. We are excited for our new farm store to open, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for the rest of it. But for now, I'm doing what I love most, being a mother, wife, a businesswoman, a farmer, a lover of Jesus, and making meals from scratch.
So there you have it. When it comes to the Nealmans' marriage in particular, it's up to you whether or not you want to believe Funky's framing of the situation or if you want to take Hannah at her own words. It's also funny because in light of some of the later points that we're going to cover, it looks like Funky is ready to start a witch hunt of her own for trad men who are secretly abusing their wives. Look, I get it. We live in the real world, and there are a lot of crappy situations out there. But I feel like it's a bit of an overcorrection to look at every stay-at-home wife wearing a headscarf as though she's been beaten into submission. And we will see exactly that sort of paranoia start to crop up in some of Funky's later points. And even though Hannah will publicly affirm her relationship, Funky insinuates that her husband is waiting in the wings, ice pick in hand, ready to lobotomize her the second she goes off script. Look, everyone has different standards and expectations for their relationships. At the end of the day, regardless of if I'm reading Megan's article, watching Funky's video, or even the Nealmans' response on TikTok, I don't know anything about what goes on in their household. To be completely honest with you, the only reason I even bothered responding to this part of the video is to push back against this sort of armchair marriage counseling that Funky is doing. To tell you the truth, I don't think that Funky even cares about the Nealmans' marriage in particular. Rather, all of these opinions have been nothing more than a pretense to set up the actual discussion about a much darker subject: physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse.
But regardless of your feelings about Megan Agnew's interview and whether or not Hannah Nealman even identifies with the label, the article has once again ignited a fierce debate about tradwives. And I'm here to introduce something to the conversation: the internet's kryptonite, nuance. Oh my god!
I left the oven on!
Female hysteria.
See guys, I knew we were missing something here. Of course, we're just lacking nuance. And you know, I really would like to believe her. Unfortunately, she already did try to slip some stuff past us about the Nealmans, and unlike you, I've already seen the rest of what she has to say. And unfortunately for her, as reasonable as some of her points might have seemed, the video was diluted by her personal speculations about the Nealmans and her sloppy social commentary. So now that we've identified Funky Frogbait as the harbinger of nuance as well as a socially progressive feminist, let's see exactly what sort of nuance she's bringing to the table.
I don't feel bad for Hannah Nealman of Ballerina Farm because she lives in a hell of her own making. Hannah wasn't some naive, sheltered girl who never saw anything of the world. She chose to marry her husband and she chose to give up her dream of being a ballerina. And now she chooses to glamorize her lifestyle and influence young women all over the world through her social media profiles. She is a willing participant in all of these things. When do we as women start to hold each other accountable for our own choices?
But I think this dismissal of Hannah's experience as a choice she made greatly underestimates the influence of religion.
Dinner's ready.
Okay, cool. You cannot analyze the...
I said dinner's ready!
Okay, I'm coming. You cannot analyze the Ballerina Farm outside of the context of Mormonism. Both Hannah and Daniel are practicing Mormons and were raised in traditional Mormon families. Now, religion isn't really my thing anymore, but I did devote almost 2 decades of my life to it. While I wasn't raised Mormon, I was taught many of the same values that Hannah was, and like Hannah, was on the receiving end of some very intense messaging quite literally since birth. If you haven't had the experience of being raised in a conservative religion that has a strong emphasis on gender roles and preserving a patriarchal hierarchy, it can be hard to understand just how much every single aspect of your life is influenced by the mandates of the church. These aren't influences that are easy to shake off either. You can't just run out the doors, dye your hair green, get an adventurous piercing that later rejected and move on with your life. Trust me, I tried that. And depending on your flavor of religion, the consequences for leaving, both in this life and the next, can be quite extreme. So, are you really making a fair choice if you believe one option will lead to you losing everything you love and damning your immortal soul? Amen!
And it's here where Funky begins her critique of religion, specifically when it comes to religious expectations of marriage and the household. She frames religion as this all-encompassing force that controls your entire life and all your decisions, both internal and external. Rather than seeing it as simply another choice that people make to participate in, she frames religion as this unseen enemy that is bludgeoning people into submission, controlling their behavior and preventing them from making real decisions because of the consequences. But I'd like to remind everybody that there isn't a single choice that you'll make in your life that is devoid of consequences. Some decisions may be more important than others, some decisions might carry more consequences than others, but the choice remains regardless. She boils religion down to this superficial dichotomy between eternal life and eternal damnation, and acts like it's not a real choice because of the potential consequences. Whether she realizes it or not, her argument creates the exact same kind of dichotomy, where you can have freedom through feminism or stay-at-home servitude.
There's something so painfully ironic about women using the freedoms that feminism won for them to bash feminism. Their ability to build a platform at all is because of the decades of hard work that the very women they ridicule devoted their lives to. But if you just want to call us ugly and mean, that's okay too, I guess. Though maybe you should shut the up and sit the down because, you know, you're not feminists, so maybe you should let the men do the talking. They're really good at it. Now, even though we've taken this little detour, or long detour, to talk about feminism, I'd like to point out that a lot of support that I've seen for tradwife content online has been from feminists. These feminists insist that the ability to choose between being a tradwife or not being a tradwife is what feminism is all about. And to a point, I do agree. But I think that feminism that only focuses on women's agency to make decisions and doesn't investigate the social pressures behind these decisions and consequences for these decisions leaves women vulnerable to exploitation. Because while these TikTokers get to cosplay being a tradwife, real stay-at-home moms suffer the consequences, and women deserve to know what they are risking.
You see, even though this person might pay lip service to the political freedoms that feminism has brought women, she really doesn't care about the freedom itself. If you're not actively agreeing with this person, she doesn't see you as enjoying your life the way that you want, actively indulging in the freedoms that feminism has supposedly afforded you. You're actually a victim of some oppressive system, or you're actively a threat to the lifestyle that she enjoys. And if you're a woman thinking about voicing these kinds of opinions, then her expectation is that you will
shut the up and sit the down because, you know, you're not feminists, so maybe you should let the men do the talking.
I can't believe she left that clip in the video, bro. That was too easy.
Women weren't forced into the home. They were gently lured back inside through the combined efforts of advertisers, academics, and politicians who all benefited from maintaining the status quo that suffragettes had upset. They sold women an idea that Friedan coined the feminine mystique, the title of her book. Ugh. That's right. I'm one of those YouTubers who has books in their videos now. Friedan defines the feminine mystique as the assumption that women can find fulfillment through marriage and motherhood alone. But in her own experience, and the experience of countless other housewives across the country, even amongst the most socially privileged, this traditional position left them with intense feelings of dissatisfaction, fatigue, and general unhappiness. These women aren't traditional. They're business owners LARPing the 1950s. Just like your average nerd wants to get hammered and run around Ren Fair in chainmail without contracting the bubonic plague, these women want to wear vintage clothing and promote vintage ideals without acknowledging the troubling history behind the aesthetic. Because as much as conservatives bemoan the loss of high-value women posting montages of the good old days with vaguely racist undertones, the perfect housewives of the past were famously subjected to lobotomies or had to sedate themselves with barbiturates just to tolerate their lives.
What? This is just mommy's little helper.
That the packaging for patriarchal values can be very pretty. In fact, they can be presented as reaffirming women's femininity, protecting them from the harshness of the outside world. Women should consider themselves lucky that they get to stay home and fulfill their biological destiny while men, I don't know, explore the stars. As Friedan puts it, protectiveness has often muffled the sound of doors closing against women.
It's here that Funky's video goes beyond simply offering an alternative to the traditional lifestyle. Funky presents feminism as the solution to a sedated and restrictive stay-at-home lifestyle. She makes the claim that while women are locked away in the house, men are free to be CEOs and astronauts. I'm not in the least bit surprised that she chose the example she did, because it wouldn't do her video very well if she were to acknowledge this little fact. Funky's video is 35 minutes of mental gymnastics aimed at explaining why the patriarchy is responsible for the majority of women being in childcare and nursing professions. Now, no one is going to downplay the importance of preschool teachers and nurses, but do you know what else is important? Firefighters, 82% of which are men. Police, 83% men. Truck drivers, 91% men. Construction workers, 94% men. Oil field workers, 95% men. Garbage collectors, 95% men. Sewage disposal workers, 95% men. Electricians, 95% men. And so on, and so on, and so on. Men aren't just out here becoming rock stars and making millions of dollars while their wives slave away in the house, only coming out to the light of day to go grocery shopping. Men are working longer hours at harder jobs, not because women can't, but so women don't have to. At this point of the video, I'm ready to go full mask off on this frumpy theater kid. Everything that Funky has said up to this point has either been ideologically driven or demonstrably false. However, we aren't done yet because Funky still has one more talking point left to push.
My real problem with the tradwife lifestyle is that it can be really dangerous. Traditional marriage is often explained as an equivalent exchange, support for security, comfort for cash. But the husband is holding all the cards. If he decides to walk away from the table, the wife is left with no job, no education, and years of missing work experience.
Hold it!
The wife's well-being is completely dependent on the goodwill of the husband. If he's a good guy, things are good. If he's a bad guy, things can get really, really bad. Especially if the woman has been isolated from any outside support network. You add a dash of religious fervor, a pinch of social stigma against divorce, and you've got a recipe for misery gumbo.
But my husband would never do that. He loves me.
I really, truly, deeply hope that that's true. But how do you know for sure? And what if he changes?
That would never happen.
But so many women have said that and been proven wrong.
You're just jealous of me.
Nancy,
Why
Nancy,
can't you just let me
please
be
just
happy?
listen.
Get out! Get out of my house! Get out! Get out!
Well, I wish I could say that that was the first time someone's kicked me out for yapping too much.
Not one of these points is exclusive to women. Men can also fall victim to these exact same relationship issues. Of course, that's not to say that Froggy is explicitly wrong about what she's saying, just that men are equally capable of being victims, and women are absolutely equally capable of being perpetrators. This is simply another instance of Froggy misrepresenting the truth in order to fit her narrative. She needs men to be violent, lying manipulators who coerce women into doing what they want, because she's guilty of the very same thing that she accuses these tradwife influencers of doing. She is attempting to sell you a massive steaming pile of horse crap under the label of nuance. We are at the gaslighting segment of Funky's video where she implies that men are violent perpetrators and women are helpless victims. And of course, the nuance she was talking about has gone out the window, down the street, over the hill, and through the woods. As I've said multiple times in this video, and hopefully clearly demonstrated by this point, this person is more interested in building a narrative than they are giving a thoughtful and careful treatment of these very serious issues. This is under-researched woke slop, and Funky is about to prove my point in spades.
You might have noticed that there is a lack of statistics in this video. When I first started writing this, I had this idea in my head that I was going to make an absolutely watertight, highly researched essay, like those super smart commentary YouTubers I like to watch who post a 7-hour-long video every other leap year. And maybe I will do that one day, but right now, if I'm being honest, I'm just tired. I shouldn't have to present statistics when I say that women have a wealth of contribution to offer industry and academia. Though, according to the Pew Research Center, women account for over 50% of the college-educated labor force in the United States.
Yeah, but according to the Department of Education, these women are not pursuing STEM fields with the exception of medicine. It doesn't matter if 52% of women are college-educated when the degrees that they're getting aren't actually relevant to the workforce. Again, Funky is misrepresenting the facts to support her conclusion, or as we in the business call it, lying.
I shouldn't have to present statistics when I say it's a really bad idea for women to live their lives at the mercy of their husbands. Though, according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1 in 4 women has experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner.
I shouldn't have to present statistics for what I'm saying. You should just believe me because man bad and women victim.
Yeah, while it's true that 1 in 4 women have suffered from domestic violence, 1 in 5 men are also victims. When you break it down into percentages, that's 23% of women and 19.3% for males, according to the domesticviolenceresearch.org, a disparity of less than 4 percentage points. Of course, this knucklehead McSpazatron could care less about the actual nuance. What would we do if we found out women were perpetrating at higher rates than men?
Because unlike a lot of people making videos on this topic, I've actually had to live this. I was raised by a traditional Christian wife in a traditional Christian community. There is a lot of hurt there that is not completely mine to share, but trust me when I say I have seen the terror men can wield when they believe that the submission of their wife and children is their God-given right.
Look, Funky doesn't have to justify her daddy issues to me. Religious trauma is absolutely real and domestic violence does happen. But victim or not, that doesn't excuse the bold-faced misrepresentations you've employed to push your point. All of the in-before qualifiers that you've used in this video serve no other purpose than to shut down opposition before they've had a chance to critique you. Intimate partner violence is a complex and hard enough issue to discuss without people like Funky jumping in and flexing their victimhood as some sort of unique credential to discuss the topic. But of course, I've got one more tasty morsel to end this video on.
If you've been watching this and you feel like I've been a bit overdramatic, I don't blame you. But I would like to remind you that we have a presidential candidate who has surrounded himself with people whose involvement with Project 2025 is public knowledge. This document outlines plans to restrict women's access to healthcare and birth control, remove protections for LGBTQ+ people and people of color, and reinstate traditional gender roles as outlined by a certain interpretation of the Christian Bible, amongst many other radical changes. It would be, as the kids say, a major L for the US. If you're a traditional wife, and even after everything I've said you want to continue in this role, that's fine. Though I do hope you have a plan B in case things go wrong, and not the one Republicans are trying to ban. I want you to have the right to do so and have your decision be respected despite my reservations and experiences, but I also want a world where there's a place for me and people like me, so if your husband does let you participate in this election cycle, here's a quick tip. You can lie to him when he asks who you voted for.
And there you have it, guys. I mean, what more proof do you need that this is a dishonest person, right? The way that they decide to end their video is by encouraging women to have an exit strategy and to lie to their husbands in order to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president again. This is the extent of this person's activism, and this is the entire point of this video: to gaslight and radicalize women to political action. Not to live the life that they want, not to indulge the freedoms that feminism has bought them, but to scare and to manipulate them into voting for the candidate that she wants them to vote for. This is where the sympathy leaves the room. This is where people stop caring about the hardships that you've been through. Nothing screams wholesome chungus like lie to your husband and plan for an exit strategy. That's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate all of you that have stuck around and watched the entire thing. Like I said, I just felt moved to respond to this video in particular because it felt like a lopsided attack on the lifestyle that has brought me and my family so much stability. I believe in free will, and because of that, I don't believe that we are defined by social pressures, our upbringing, or other causes in our environment. More than anything, I believe it's our choices that really define who we are, and I sincerely believe in people's ability to come together to find solutions to these problems. If people would just stop memeing on each other and live up to the standards that they try to enforce on other people, I think the world would be a lot better place. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, and until next time, love you guys, safe travels.
I don't hate tradwives, not even the fake ones, but I felt like I had an obligation, given what I've been through, and given what the women in my life have been through, to talk about the realities of choosing this path. At best, the tradwife lives her life comfortably in a gilded cage. At worst, she's caught in a death trap.
At this point, I'm ready to go full mask off because, shit.